Jay Whitecotton. That's a mouthful, Whitecotton. Whitecotton.
Everybody says white cock at first.
Yeah, that makes more sense, white
It's
cock.
because the white cotton doesn't make
Cotton.
sense.
Yeah, it's like, your mouth doesn't want to do that. Mm.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And that explains most of my interactions.
Hey, it's Dr. Tyler. Today we have Jay Whitecotton.
Man, I don't even know who I am anymore either after this conversation. Oh, shit, man. You're good.
Today we have Jay Whitecotton. I think Whitecotton, we just were saying, it's hard to say.
Okay, I'm the actual Jay Whitecotton. If you're watching other podcasts, the black guy, that's Aaron Cheatham. He's my best friend. The girl, that's not me. But I just find it so funny watching people interview me and it's not me. It's my joy.
Well, we had you today. It's just the same as your heart. Your heart has, big vessels that are pumping blood through to keep it moving. Just like that, your...
Hence the veins.
Yes. So the veins are really important with the penis in developing an erection because they actually have to be closed off to allow the blood flow to accumulate in the penis. So think of it like this. You need good pipes going in, kind of like a house. You need good pipes bringing the water in, but when you want the house to get full of water, which is what it would... the penis, we want it to get full of blood, so it's hard. We need those veins to be shut down. So the pressure of having good flow in, and as the penis expands, it actually cuts off the blood flow, removing the blood from the penis, which is why it creates an erection. So some patients have something called venous leakage, where their veins are weak, and so they don't get closed off enough.
Right, was it elasticity of
yes.
the outer wall has a hard time. Okay, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so then their veins, even though there's a lot of pressure in their penis when they have an erection, unfortunately still allow blood flow to come back, and then they have a weak erection or what we would consider erectile dysfunction. How do you typically recommend we start? That's always my starting and stopping are like the hardest.
Well, I'd say hopefully he's been recording this whole time.
I think they start recording from like the moment we...
Yeah, I always liked a good casual intro, and then because in editing you can always just post in the music, boom, boom, and then it flows right into it.
Right.
You are recording, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Here we go, right in block letters.
Thank you. That's perfect.
I needed to know that, too.
So today we have with us Jay Cottonwood. I'm so sorry.
No,
you know my name?
Read it. You just read it.
I know. Whenever I go into... This is actually funny. Whenever I get into, like, having to memorize...
You blank out on names?
I'm just not good with, like, a lot of direction in general in life. I don't like to be told exactly what to say and do because my brain doesn't respond well to that. So we never, like, formally... This is the first time we've formally really been met. So why don't you introduce yourself and to me, to the audience?
Well, I'm not really good with introductions, and I will say that I'm uncomfortable with attention.
Well, you're at the wrong place.
And doing the wrong career. I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 20 years now.
Right.
Coming up in October. And it's wild to see all the changes. You caught me at a wild time. I had no idea that I was going to get a message for this, but I had a feeling that things were going to go towards this line. So I spent the past couple of years just kind of thinking about my journeys with mental health.
Sure.
But cautiously, because in an industrial cycle of what seems to be going on, like a hyper amount of entrepreneurialism, you're starting to see the grifters and the hucksters kind of apply this entertainment attention economy model.
Right.
And it's turning into a hyper-industrialization. So the more these podcasts are popping up to deal with mental health, especially the word for it was what? Telehealth? What is it?
Yeah. So telehealth is really any virtual consultation you have with a physician or sometimes a mental health provider, sometimes just a nurse.
Right.
So any sort of medicine interaction or healthcare interaction virtually, you could say is telehealth.
Right. So in my mind, it gets crazy because like I'm thinking, what happened that like it's rooted from telephone, a thing we don't use anymore.
Right.
And now we're repurposing it. So now when people think of we're thinking of mental health over the phone, but it's essentially just,
Yeah, and there's been a lot of positives, of course, that come out of using telehealth virtually to, access patients, especially for mental health concerns. A lot of patients in rural areas or patients that don't have primary care providers or don't have insurance, they're able to now find affordable care anywhere, really. There are also some downsides, though. An example being corporate medicine has really embraced telehealth. They've really embraced mental health care, too. And so there's a lot of providers that are getting hired by these mega conglomerate, healthcare mental health companies that are really providing less than stellar care. You know, patients are getting a phone call from their, you know, mental health counselor or provider for 10 to 15 minutes, prescribed medicine, and then on to the next. And so we're seeing sort of some positives.
It's almost like therapists are batshit crazy themselves.
Well, you know, it doesn't take much to be a therapist. It is a lot of school.
Okay, stay on that for a second. What?
I know. I mean, I hate that's probably going to be something that gets me in trouble.
Are you about to say, literally, I'm doing it? I don't know why either. Here we are.
Well, I see a lot of TikToks and Reels where people actually make fun of the process to become a therapist because it is typically a relatively short program. And
certification.
If you were to look at healthcare in general, I would say it's one of the more accessible ways of becoming a healthcare provider is becoming a therapist. There's also just a lot of ways you can become one, and there's not too much governing who is credentialed or who is regulating these things. You know, there's also, actually, I was driving down the road here in Texas, and there's a billboard that says, make sure your therapist is licensed because how do you know, right? I mean, they're not prescribing you medicine, so you don't have to go pick something up at the pharmacy. They're talking to you sometimes over the phone. Yeah. They're talking to you sometimes over the computer. Maybe you're even in their office. You see something on the wall, but you don't really know. You don't know where they've gotten their credentials from, or regardless of where they get them from, is it just valid credentials? So again, another topic we could go down.
Okay, well, we're just gonna. I figured, like, your producer's here. He hit me to it. He says this guy's really knowledgeable, but he's entering this foray into this world, and I got really excited about that. Yeah. So I'm gonna screw with you.
Please do.
Like crazy, but I want you to give it right back.
I'm good at that.
When I say I'm going to screw with you, I'm not actually screwing with you. I'm just going to be genuine and an honest person. But people do not like that. It makes them very uncomfortable. And I'll give a little bit of background for myself because I think you'll need it. But I need to know what the hell you do.
Great question.
So I'm going to ask 2 questions.
Okay.
Probably 3 questions, and one of them I do with everybody I talk to, and it's very uncomfortable. But when we get it out of the way, it takes away what I think is predominantly overhanging in both media, but in everyday culture ourselves. Just in our, I think we're so media savvy that we're losing sight on what it is to interact just as human beings.
Sure.
For instance, we're in a, obviously a production studio.
Sort of like a prison cell, yes.
A little bit like prison cell. Created by a group of people looking to profit off people getting into this industry.
Sure.
So money is going to them. They have the best idea. Right. Like, everyone on this side of the camera is a fucking idiot. You're a sucker. You're a mark.
I totally.
The people on the other end who own the equipment and own the platforms are doing great. So the contrast I'm facing in comedy is I'm surrounded by lunatics who genuinely think they control and own their lives, and they're falling apart under this psychosis that they're inventing for themselves. Right. Now, the bitch with that is you add in the idea of narcissism, a thing that we've just casually made fun of and just lessened the value of what that word is. Right. Not keeping in mind that this is a legit medical condition carried by some of the most egregiously awful human beings to walk this earth. Right. And they're just out there destroying lives. Like, I've dated like half of them. But I take the responsibility on my own. I'm just attracted because I grew up around that. Well, so I've had to, I've been trying to explain this to friends in my journey. I was trying to figure out, like, why do I keep attracting psychos? Because my mentality is, if I'm dating, if they're all psycho, then clearly I'm the fucking problem.
Well, they all, Freud says we're trying to date our moms if we're straight.
Yeah, but he also was bought by marketing departments and sales, and was a con artist.
True.
Who and maybe his mom was hot and fuckable. Let's not take that away from him.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, dude.
I like guys.
I do. Hey, look, and Freud could unpack that as well. And you're going to do very well because you have that masculinity thing. When he walked in, he looked like I've never seen a solid rock float. you've mastered the art of being airy gay, but also like this earth tone.
It's a lot of that's been a lot of cultivated trauma of my femininity and trying to hide it for so long that now that I've embraced it, I feel like it's almost less obvious, because I used to hide it so much that I think it was more obvious that I was feminine, that now that I'm like embracing it and super cool with it, I forget to hide it and I realize that I'm actually just being me.
Well, see, that to me is the most normal thing to say.
Yeah.
And the weight of it just bothers me that the emotional weight that's carried with it. And most of my friendships and conversations, like, I'll be upfront. I know how I sound and I know how I come across. So quite often, what I call it is resting, resting bitch face, right? Uh-huh. I love that look. I have resting white trash face.
I used to. I'm working on getting out of it.
Well, yeah, I decided to not let other people define me.
Right.
And I will just take the challenge of making them manage their emotions about their own projections.
Exactly.
Instead of getting consumed in a visage that may be taking over. It might be a sign of unhealth as well. To be so in search of perfection that you are glistening your teeth before doing this podcast.
Well, I just
But hold on. I got yeah. No, I can't get away from this because I'm going to do the thing that you need to see happen in real time.
Sure.
As I'm trying to catch it. As I'm picking you apart, which I don't want to do.
No, please
I'm not doing it.
I actually enjoy it. But yes,
Of course, you need the attention. I understand that. That's why you're going to be very good at this.
I'm an only child, so can you tell?
Most rich kids are.
I actually believe. Well, we'll get into that. But I did not grow up with money at all, but we'll get into that. Yeah.
Oh, then it's worse. Then you wanted to be a fucking rich kid.
True.
Yeah,
that is true. We'll get into that too.
I grew up poor, and I had to go to a private school on a scholarship. Yeah.
But my parents paid, so we were even poorer because I went to the school.
They worked hard for you. They loved you. You motherfucker.
Well,
you had people that loved you.
Well, let me backtrack there. My parents put me into a private school because they wanted to make sure I was as conservative as possible.
Oh, that's all of them. That's
yeah. So I don't know if they love me or they just wanted me to vote R for the rest of my life.
I don't think. Well, I think they did the right thing.
They did, though. No, absolutely, they did.
And I do stand by this. I think every baby should be born conservative.
I can see that.
You're in the most weakened state you can possibly be. You shouldn't trust anyone.
Right.
Especially those.
Right.
Others.
And it really
whatever
fits into the narrative if you're conservative and you're born a baby because, right, you shouldn't trust anyone. You're very vulnerable, but also you need the most resources.
Right.
Oh, was that a knock?
I would love for someone to interrupt.
I know.
Just show up.
But, right? I'm like,
it's a big, giant conservative baby.
He's like, yeah. So just like my parents who are really conservative, they need the most resources out of anyone I've ever met. They desperately need Medicare. Yeah. They desperately need social services, and they constlet's vote against their best interests. So it definitely sounds like an infant. So yes, all infants really are born conservative, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, think about that infantility, that mindset that a baby has. It's a resource hoarding. It's I don't trust anything. It's a self-consummation. Right. Who's a bigger narcissist than a fucking baby?
Me?
It's me. You think, but if you have one, you're going to have to take care of it because of that. Something hits in your psychology.
I would never. I'm just not a baby kind of guy.
Very easy thing to say.
I know, but I'm gay, so it's really hard to have a baby.
Well, I've known a lot of gay dads.
That's
who
true.
would say otherwise.
That's true. It's more of a process.
Well, that's also the unfortunate part is like when you say gay, you immediately the fun implies because I know I do comedy, so you're going to be a lot looser than you would in a formal conversation. So you would probably check yourself. This is the problem with all of these podcasts. You know, you want to try and have a real conversation, but you need to take the depth of time to appreciate that there's many levels to this.
Yeah.
So right now we're starting to know each other. We're starting to feel it out. I'm finding out where you're from. You're finding out where I'm from. Right. You're locking in some. You're throwing the gay thing to make sure, like, listen, you should know that not only am I gay, but I can get it.
That's true.
Wondering how I'm going to respond to that or I'm going to feel, I don't, whatever. Yeah. But I'm not whatevering it because in my heart, like having been around it for so long, it bothers me that it has to be a thing.
I know.
And at the same time, I also have the conversation as I'm being flippant about it. I also have to go to the other side. Well, all right, here's the medicine. The reality is being gay probably wasn't as fun for you as it is for all these new gays who clearly have it too good and should be bullied a little bit.
I mean, my jealous
Just to
self-
understand.
But here's my perspective is honestly, I am very happy that I went through that trauma early in life because it really prepared me a lot for just working in the traumatic industry of medicine, the traumatic industry of business in general, capitalism, everything that I've been experiencing after college. I think all of the personal struggles, the financial struggles, the just learning to pick up the pieces on your own. I learned when I was 10 years old and realizing that I didn't fit in with my conservative Christian family and I needed to pick up the pieces on my own and start, creating this life for myself.
All right. This is where okay, good. How the fuck did you do that?
There was a lot of crying, a lot of why God, why? There was a lot of,
Okay, so you had the religious on top of it.
oh yes, I grew up. The school I went to was Christian, very religious. Actually, our valedictorian the year before I graduated was gay, and they refused to let him be valedictorian, even though he wasn't out of the closet, but he was too feminine, so they gave it to someone. So I went through this cycle too. And what's interesting, my development of being gay, I was also very conservative. So initially, I came out for myself, realizing I'm gay, but I still was very conservative. I still did not think gay people should get married because that's what my parents taught me. I did not think that we should be given special privileges, which are actually in reality is
Just rights.
Just rights. So, I went through all of that, and then
And also being gay is a pretty sweet privilege.
I mean, looking back at now, I'm so glad I'm gay. Every day I wake up and say, thank Jesus.
You know what? Honestly, every day I've just been praying for it. And
It might happen.
I've been trying to pray to gay.
You have to experiment. It all starts with experimentation.
It doesn't. It actually doesn't start with experimentation.
You're right. It doesn't.
You can't. If you're experimenting, you're having a good time. You're living your life. If you're not interested, sometimes you're forcing a thing.
Wow,
And
I like that.
this is another problem that I have with this subject is because we live in such a left-right. That's itself is they don't know where the fuck they stand anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's all cluttered. It used to be things would just go away, and now it doesn't.
Right.
So every group is co-opting and trying to be the voice for the group.
Right.
So you're right. You can speak for yourself. This podcast could be from your point of view, but I think the danger would be talking about mental health in such a generic way that the individual that you are doesn't necessarily get a chance to come out.
For sure.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. This is a good first episode.
Yeah.
All right, because I want to be a little third party about it, and because I know you're new at this, right?
Yeah, I mean,
this aspect.
Right. So I feel like it's so funny. In the last couple of years, I've been seeing so many patients virtually and watching myself on camera and listening to myself talk. And prior to that, I would have said this is never something I would have done because I'm actually quite introverted. I do like to have this persona of me online that I show pictures, but I usually don't talk very much. I usually definitely am not on video because, again, I've just always been really self-conscious. That really happened, I think, in my early teens when I was starting to blossom into my gayness. We're trying to reject it, but happening regardless. And so now, as I'm getting more comfortable even just seeing myself on camera and talking, I just trust myself more. So that's really, kind of what's propelled me to even get to this point. But to answer your question, yes, I'm just getting started.
Well, that was a long way to go. But look, it'll edit and cut out well into a TikTok video until the U.S. government bans it for whatever reason.
I mean, it's already here. Why,
We're already.
I'm not a big TikToker, though. Are you a TikToker?
I experimented with it because I hated it so much. I was working on a comedy special to make fun of it.
And then it ended up getting a lot of followers?
No, I'm really good at making sure that doesn't happen. Look, it comes down to the platforming thing.
Right.
It's why I'm having a problem negotiating. What I think is going on is we live in, we're coming at everything with a 20th century mindset that was created and started in the 19th century by the industrialists and then tested and screwed around with the youth becoming its own economic force where teenagers had disposable income. So what are they buying? Beatles albums, Beatles memorabilia, teen beats and all that stuff. Created an entire different mindset that never existed throughout most of human civilization.
Right.
And I think what we're dealing with today is a 21st century medium, but people are still just trying to cram 20th century mentality to it. And you're seeing all sorts of, it's the Wild West. It really is. And something like a TikTok, to me, is just another platform asking creatives to funnel their ideas into something that can be replicated over and over and over again under the guise of creativity and individual expression. I think the ego is being used against us. I think the fact that none of us really have had a classical education's values to this extent. We can easily compartmentalize why a classical education certainly sucks, especially for a questioning sexual young man turning into his gay prime.
Right.
You know, there's absolute limitations, but you know, classical educations. What's the Greeks? Who knows better about being gay than the fucking Greeks? So fuck all that shit. We'll just come back around. How about a real classical education where children have to have sex with old men? No, that's not what I'm saying. The philosophers did definitely have some things to say that were good and some other things that were not so much. But where the hell is this going? We have a 20th century mindset being attached to the 21st century, and I think people don't have any jobs or any value or any self or sense of self, and they've been told they've been special for so long for nothing that now it's the price for that's kind of coming to a head. And what we're going to see is a lot more people having their mental health journeys online in this big show of tears, and they're going to be stand-up comedians or they're going to be musicians. And unfortunately, they're liars.
Right.
They're attention-seeking. And this is something that I would warn you about. This was my major concern about even coming up here is like, am I going to be a douchebag for talking from my place of values without making sure that you know that there's not an actual cloud of judgment on it? It's just a recognition that I need to know where you're coming from because there's things that you do that I would say would be very unhealthy. Yeah. And that I would worry about. And I think therapy has to find a way to break down that wall of I'm a therapist, so I'm your God. Right. And you pay me to be this source. And certainly there's a lot of good people out there that find ways to negotiate that. But because of accreditation and what we call credibility being very paper thin, it's not going to work out that way. For instance, you have your own line of Speedo?
I do. Yeah. So it actually started because I've been on social media for many years, obviously, but I started getting into Instagram like 2012, and I used to love to travel. I'm from Florida, so I'm always at the beach. And as I transitioned into accepting my gayness, I also was accepting the way I looked and my physicality, and wearing a Speedo was always something that growing up I would see gay guys do and something I would always like shun or that's super feminine or too much for me. Anyway, so I started embracing it at this time, and I would get people shouting out, hey, will you wear my Speedo brand? I'll give you $30 and a free Speedo, and then you could use this, and I would promote their brand and they'd make like $5,000 and I'd get my $30 in my Speedo. And I'm like, this doesn't seem very fair. Yeah. So I was like, let me just try and see what happens. So I found a company in LA that let me design the whole thing and come up with all the concept. I mean, they're simple, solid color Speedos. It's not like I was creating a new,
cup design.
Right. No, it's just something that I find comfortable. And so it was really just a side hobby. It still is. They're not even for sale yet because I'm like lagging my feet with how I'm going to have them shipped around because I don't have a staff. But anyways, so the point was I just wanted to take control of the situation, and if I was going to promote Speedos, they were going to be mine. And so I made it, and that's what I did.
Okay. Lovely. No, it's exactly what I needed to hear because it's fascinating to me. I think the evolution of podcast, whatever this is we need to diversify more than we need to individualize. Sure. Meaning that there should be someone that understands telehealth concerns and the limitations of that. I'm going to go into a story in a bit here about why I have some concerns about that. I'm going to need your help with that. Please. And your perspective. Okay. But there should be an anthropologist here. There should be a historian here. There should be an engineer here, different types of mindsets, because this isn't a left or right problem, and this isn't there's multiple solutions because there's basically 6 different types of people, and that's pretty much it. Right. And this whole one thing for all, like the theory for everything that humanity's always chasing after, just give me the big fucking chunk. I don't need all these details, is what I think is lowering us down. Here's what I need your help on, all right? Okay. I don't know if I'm insane. And I think that's a good question to ask yourself.
Okay.
And it's one I personally ask myself because I come from a similar background, although I didn't come from money. I think I came from austerity, which is southern Georgia, Savannah area. Is that?
Oh, yeah.
That was, okay.
I'm from Jacksonville, so
Oh, Jesus. All right. All right. Then that's a completely...
Yeah.
Mississippi?
No.
Jacksonville.
Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida.
2 hours from Savannah.
Okay. All right. I got you there.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Whew. All right.
No, oh my God. Could you meet? I probably wouldn't be here. I'd still be in the fields.
Oh, you'd be the belle of the ball, baby.
Maybe I'll
My
go.
word.
I would.
There'd be a lot of vapors.
That sounds fun.
It is. It's very beautiful there. Love the people too. I grew up. I think my parents were. My mom had schizophrenia. She was, but she had multiple personalities. Absolutely bipolar, like everything, just the hodgepodge of all.
Sure.
And from third grade on, I was told that from the ages of 17 to 24, more than likely I was going to become schizophrenic. I was going to lose my mind. Now in third grade, like I was a smart kid, but trying to comprehend that is still quite difficult.
Right.
And I'm aloof about it, so I just kind of thought about it, like, well, what is my thoughts? What's me? And I remember a teacher yelling about me something because I was kind of stuck in that sense of self. And she told me something about this other student that was picking on me, and I defended myself, and that's a whole nother story. I was never allowed to do that. And she goes, you got to think about what other people are thinking and feeling. And that really got to me. I was like, that's just something I don't know. I don't know what other people are thinking and feeling. How can I know anything if I don't know where someone else is coming from? And in fact, probably more perspectives are better because you can make better decisions. So as a species, we're probably collaborative. Well, I don't want to go crazy, and I'm surrounded by fucking nuts. So how do I do that? So every day I just, looked at reality and tried to examine how I thought about it, where I was approaching it, and boy, did that stunt my growth. Boy, that was a bad decision in a lot of areas because you don't connect to anybody.
Right.
Especially growing up around rich kids, and you're not, you don't have the same values.
Yep.
And I was raised by this weird John Wayne failure of a father who would just borrow money from his mom, sleep on the couch, drink beers, and just abuse us every day. Every day, just pulled out, beaten in the middle of the night. Hilarious. Works really well on stage, too. It's really fun. And so, I just got lost into stand-up comedy, and I never had the connection with the mother figure and stuff like that. And I was always like, well, that's going to be something I should be worried about, because if I have a longing in my heart, I want to connect, I want to be in relationships, but not having that mother figure, it's going to be off-putting for a lot of women, and it would come up very often. Anywho, I didn't go crazy between 17 and 24, and it really pissed me off. Really upset.
You were just really wanting to have something.
I convinced myself. Well, it's nice to have something, isn't it?
It is. You can always blame things when you have something.
I'm feminine. Am I supposed to be a man? Oh, no, I'm gay. Isn't it nice to have a thing?
I mean, I wish I could have had something better. No, I'm just kidding. Gay's good.
Yeah.
But you're right. It does help me to, in my head, learning how to interpret who I am.
Yeah.
I can label myself. I can say, I'm gay. This is happening to me because I'm gay. I feel this way because I'm gay. This is because I'm gay. So it is kind of nice having something.
Yeah, I hate all that. I would never let you get away with that shit. Just as a friend, honestly, as a human being, I would have to say, well, that's part of you for sure, and I can't dismiss that.
Sure.
This happens in comedy a lot too. I'm looking at the producer too because he works on stage. So to parallel, a lot of Hispanic comics have this problem in comedy. A lot of black comedians in Austin, Texas have this problem, especially in comedy. Black comedian is only accepted here if it's comfortable for the white audience. But if you're just a little bit too black, the way they call it, they don't seem to have the same kind of trajectory or backing. Yeah. And the few of them that are able to lock in, because people behind the scenes are adamantly yelling, hey, you need to be booking Bryson. His name is Bryson Brown. He's a very funny comedian. And they had this very lily white NPR girl opening for Bruce. And you're like, put that guy in there. It's because the bookers don't think of that terms, because they just say black is this and this is this.
Right.
Parallel, my buddy Josh Johnson. Best comedian in Texas that doesn't do it. Absolutely. There's another comic named Josh Johnson that kind of bit from his style, and he's very famous right now out of Chicago. And our Josh Johnson knows for a fact that this guy was copying and mirroring and pasting from him because he could tell from his videos and his dates to that guy's videos and when he was releasing. Well, this guy's rich. He's connected. And a lot of white guilt just gobbles him up. And our Josh Johnson ends up crumbling because, one, he grew up in the hood, loving the Gilmore Girls, loving My Little Pony. He's got a 10-minute bit on the My Little Pony that is the funniest thing I've ever heard, that comes from no place of homoeroticism, none of that like patriarchal bullshit being projected on. Just as he goes deep into the character and the lore and comes out really funny. His whole issue is, who am I supposed to be as a black man if everybody's telling me I'm not being the right black man? Right. And then you get in his own community, black people in his own community are like, you're not the right kind of us. You know? Well, there is no us.
Right.
At that state, we got to get rid of all the labels and come back to what the fuck are your values? And to me, that's how I start every conversation with strangers that are formal like this.
Right.
You know, we introduce ourselves, and I just want to know, what are your values? That way, when I talk to them, I can respect them better and also know where they're coming from, so that if I do challenge something that I know that they would conflict with, it's not because I think less of them. It's because I want to know why their perspective showed it as a positive. Right. You know, because there's experiences I haven't had. And people are losing that side of this conversation. And I already got lost in it myself.
Well, let me just say,
That's
My
how
Little
detailed
Pony
it is.
has great character development. There's
Incredible
a lot to it. It reminds me a lot of the Care Bears. I'm not
I
sure
wish
if
I
you're
knew.
familiar
I
with
had all the Care Bears, but I was never allowed My Little Pony because we can't raise a queer.
You know, for my
Now
mom,
get on the horse, son. Put those assless chaps on you. Let's go out into the woods and hang around a bunch of men shooting things and grabbing its testicles, cutting it off, gutting it, because I can't have a gay son.
Well, everything sounded great until we started cutting stuff.
Themed horses. Now put on them tasseled shirts and satiny, glowing, glittering things.
You're
We're going to the
getting me
rodeo.
excited.
Yeah, it's very weird to be that the most like homophobic people are also happen to be the most homoerotic. It's just a part of society that I have a hard time with. So when you say these identifiers that you call, well, because I'm a gay man, I can't have that conversation. It's too superficial for me.
For sure.
But for this format, they love it. Yeah. It's so fucking shallow. Yeah. And my biggest problem is that it's I have so many problems. I realize that. But we're trying to be in depth in the shallows.
Right.
And you have an entire community, culture of people. And the best way I can explain it, when this comedian friend that I bumped into, I don't know if this was our conversation earlier or if we had it in here earlier, is I bumped into a comic who was having big problems, and I told him two things that helped him. And it was, you don't like attention. You need to admit that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't do any of this.
Right.
It just means in here you have to recognize that all these feelings are you not knowing how to manage your shit. Now you are really important. Because if you're doing telehealth, that should be, to me, the only thing a therapist or a mental health provider over the fucking phone, a thing or the screen or whatever, that only conveys a small percentage. God damn it. I'm so goddamn mad. All right, we're going to fucking do this right.
Okay.
In quarantine, when all the troubles happened, all right, I had so much shit happen to me that it made me just go, stop and hold up. What is reality? What is going on? First day, I find a dead body behind my apartment complex, Sandstone Apartments, now Volume 7. First day. In the course of a week, I get, not a week, but throughout the whole thing, I found the dead body, got in 2 fights with packs of coyotes, 2 separate incidents with coyotes. In
Austin?
Yes. Yes. Not just in Austin, down the fucking street from here on Manor Road in 35 in that area.
They're fighting back.
There was some, well, we'll get there. This kid that was like, I mean, he's almost 30 now, but I met him when he was a kid, and we would having conversation about the whole thing, and I'm just working out all my ideas of what I think psychologically is happening. I didn't realize that he was losing his mind. The more fame he was chasing in the New York podcast scene and the stand-up comedy scene, and the pushback and this dramatic, you're not saying the things we want to say, and they're like, well, I'm getting canceled, and you're like, you're all fucking bitches. Like, you're just losers. You're just sad, shallow losers. And seeing a culture of people that grew up on Wikipedia, copying and pasting their answers, it's a completely different mindset. If you go into the research and you talk to teachers right around 2012, they would tell you that there was an immediate difference between the students from the year before to that year. It also was around 2012, surprisingly enough, when you started coming into your awakening in Instagram and social media use.
Right.
Also, around 2012, it was being talked about majorly, because Seinfeld was in the news a lot for saying he wouldn't do colleges anymore. He was like, it's just kind of weird. I don't have fun with it. Yeah. And people like push back, like, you nerd, you fucking old boomer. And he's like, all right, well, I guess that's the money. I don't care. I'm rich.
Yeah.
Transcendental meditation. Meanwhile, this reporter for The Atlantic comes out and says, you know what? It seems like everyone's getting infantile and embracing, what do we talk about? The conservative of babies. The shallows of babies. I want mine. I want everything mine. Yeah. And I didn't snap to any of this until I thought about, oh, wait, well, maybe the Mayans were right about 2012. Maybe the world did end on us. Everything changed after that. You look globally, what was going on? You had that Ukrainian flight get shot down by these Russian forces that we all knew were Russian, but playing like they weren't. This thing in Ukraine was going to happen. We had Israel started firebombing Palestine that same month. You had the Malaysian aircraft bombed out of nowhere. 3 of them, I think, 2 or 3 at least. And then out of nowhere, cops killing black people became a very big story in Ferguson.
Yeah.
And we just got the media. Everything just exploded. It was a perfect storm of a culture of student who couldn't think for themselves because it was better to copy, paste, move on.
Yeah.
And that mindset has now aged 10 years later, and you're seeing industries and platforms pop up, and people are losing their minds because they don't have any substance. We don't know what we are. And all through quarantine, I was overweight. I was talking to a neurologist beforehand. There was an issue where I might have this thing called cluttering or something that was starting to affect the way I think and the way I talk and the words that were coming together. I was having a harder time being able to separate that. And I have no money. I'm a poor person. I've been dedicated. I lived in a closet surrounded by comics, not figuratively. I had to live in an actual closet. Not as fun. I totally understand why suppressing your gay self might have sucked. I gained 100 pounds. Nobody cared. Just getting fat and breathing and stuff like that. And in the course of losing weight, I just started walking in circles and thinking about, what is the ultimate answer to this? What was the problem? Why aren't we fixing anything? Why does every problem just create more problems that people can make money off of? Right. And it hit me. I don't really know what a human being is. And everyone I ask has their own definition. And then when I go through and I read the classics and I look up, I realize no one has an agreed upon definition of a human being, a thing we say we are, but cannot agree to what others are. Right. And in fact, in our South, many people look at other people and go, well, that's definitely not a human being. And then we're like, Jesus Christ, how do you talk to that guy?
I think it's really hard to have these clear-cut ideas of how we interact with each other and how we define someone as a human or how we consider someone to be our equal in just a capitalist society. I just think really, it's a big topic to jump into, but
is it capitalism? This is the thing I have to push back on, because I don't disagree, because I don't prescribe to communism or capitalism. And the fact that we have to have this discussion is hilarious. And the only reason we have to have this discussion is because even friends of mine are doing this. I love them as human beings. I love them, whatever human being is. I love this person. I don't want to name drop him because I don't want to screw up his money either. But there's so many podcasts where they're just selling communism.
Yeah.
They're selling communism.
Well.
They ain't doing it for free, and they're not spreading it around.
Right.
They're trying to survive, selling a message to people who want to hear the message. They're the best capitalists when it comes down to it. I don't think it's capitalism that's the problem. I think it's fucking greed.
Yeah, I don't think there's I definitely don't think I am aware of a better strategy than capitalism. I just don't think it works completely freely in the sense that you're right.
There's different versions of capitalism. Unfortunately, we would need an economist with an anthropologist to have the full conversation in a legit way so that people watching this don't... you don't understand, man. I know so many people, they just get their personalities by mimicking what people say on these things.
Right.
I know so many podcasters who are making a buck who have openly told me they just go listen to the other podcasts. What has been going on is this weird form where they all look to the top podcaster making the money, and then through their greed, they start adopting those talking points that get filtered down to the other podcasts that get board. So the audiences start going, well, I want to hear this more because I'm really enraged. Well, I'm tired of hearing it from this top guy like a Jimmy Dore, so I'm going to hear it from the people stealing from Jimmy Dore. All right, now I'm tired of them. It's this they brought trickle-down economics. They brought Reaganomics into the arts.
Yeah.
And just trying to navigate that is wild to me, that even when we're trying to have this conversation, I have to be hyper aware of that, to be concerned, because people losing their minds looking for mental health solutions for their real life, and these aren't giving it. And that's why I have a problem with the telehealth thing. I tried it. I really did try it, because I wasn't lying when I said I was questioning my sanity, because all my friends around me were treating me like I was going crazy for questioning, hey, do you think we might be getting manipulated into things that aren't in our best interest by these industrial type people?
Right.
You know, I had a comic in this time during the Troubles. I had a friend lose his mind. I still, on my phone, I have the voicemails and the text thread of him thinking that the TV show Secession was about him talking to him because he met one of the writers. Right. He was a person that was perfectly sane a year before when I was doing a podcast, but the seeds were there because we're chasing something that doesn't fucking exist.
Right.
We're following our ego to become famous people without the standard of you got to be good at art, a constructive thing that has objective and subjective rules.
Right.
So thousands of these people are showing up, and the more I talked to them, the more they would lose their minds. Comedians couldn't understand me, but regular folk were like, yeah, Jay, it sucks out there. They're losing their minds. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy, but I should do due diligence. I told a friend of mine who was going through depression, I was like, you know what? You're sad because you're not famous, and you're being a little fucking bitch about it. Go to therapy.
Yeah.
Go to a therapist and tell them your problems, because they weren't fixing them. They were not fixing them. They were just listening and taking their money. And I go, no, you tell them you got to use your therapist. Tell them that you need exercises to learn how to manage your shit in this construct.
Right.
Then they can do the work. But you have to help them because they're on the fucking phone.
Yeah.
That's 7% of any communication. We had to meet in person. There had to be a physicality here, an actual thing here to connect on human beings. Because as much as what I've been saying, I consciously know, because this is a first episode, we haven't sat down to chart these out properly the way this should be done, where we could actually move this forward in a structured way that would be more applicable for the listener. I know I'm going all over the place. I realize that. And I can't stop it because that's how dense this is.
For sure.
And
I think it's a great first episode to be that way. You know, I think too, you know, you mentioned a lot about how mental health concerns in general are very difficult to treat, to fully understand virtually. I completely agree with that. Typically, where I've worked and what type of medication I've prescribed or medicine I've provided throughout mental health concerns virtually is always through video, and it's typically patients that have mild to moderate anxiety or depression. Things are very clear cut. It can be scored. These patients are typically already being referred to me by their therapist saying, I think it's time for us to start medicine. So they already have this idea. And again, as the physician side, we typically are more aligned with prescribing the medication. Again, places I've worked, I get 15 minutes to speak with some of the
Oh no, I have drug dealers in my life.
Yeah, they get more time with you.
Half of them,
drug dealers
half
get
of
more
them are
time
psychiatrists.
So we're on this time constraint. I always tell patients, I'm like, this is not an appropriate place for you to find therapy. I think you should continue with your in-person therapist. And I've never really encouraged patients to see other therapists virtually. I think telehealth in general has a lot of potential and is doing a lot of good, but in the mental health space, it is concerning where we're going.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was so scared because like every time I do this, it really hurts. If you don't have a good heart, it's not going to work. I really do believe that.
For sure.
Whatever you do, you're allowed to make a buck. You're allowed to fuck some people over. There are shitty people. They're
Right.
trying to fuck you over. You have to protect yourself. Most people are shitty, whatever that is. My idea, I think human beings are just racist monkeys. I think we're pretentious monkeys looking at other monkeys saying, well, you're clearly lesser than me, while human being is like something we made up.
Right.
That we're supposed to ascribe to be.
I agree with that. I agree that we are just slightly more functional primates.
So I think the purpose of this podcast, if I can understand it better, is that you can. There's an economy clearly being created as the general public is now embracing the idea that it's okay to talk about why you feel sad, even though you sound like a little bitch. That's 20th century, meeting the 21st century. The terminology is going to change, but I have to say little bitch because that's what we're saying inside. A lot of us.
Right.
There's nothing you can say to me. Like I've gotten out of more physical fights with vastly superior talented physical beings that could do great harm to me simply by pointing out there's nothing you can do to me physically that I can't do to myself emotionally 10 times over. And everybody is like, fuck.
Oh, God, I got to find somebody else to beat up.
Right. It's like, there's no point. There's no
This guy's
point.
already been beat up.
I embraced defeat a long time ago. It's way more interesting. It's this hyper confidence that people need. And where do you get confidence? Instagram. 2012 awakening. Check out my hot bod. Look at my Speedos now. I'm being told I'm interesting. I'm being told I'm profitable. The shit you have to navigate mentally as you come into your own is what, late 20s, early 30s coming up, man? It's going to be wildly different from you 10 years from now. So what value are you going to get from these experiences? Like, how are you attaching your growth as a human being while you're trying to help people grow through their, on this level, superficial problems?
Right.
That should be treated as both, this is a superficiality, but a necessary one. And I think I got the way to do it. All right. I worked really hard on this because I think I was trying to figure out, like, how would he do this podcast and talk to people online in a way that they can go, oh, I needed to hear that little aha thing, so then they can pursue the rest of what they think. And I think I got the one. One, you have permission to be a fuck up. Let's just get that. You make mistakes, right? Okay. What is around 2012? This is probably the apex of it. Have you ever, you know the phrase first world problems, right? You know the phrase first world problems?
Yes.
How many times in your life have you had to hear that?
A lot.
Yeah. From where your background, where you come from, the things that you're interested in.
Right.
It's probably because of the health and the athletic and the visage. Let's not say that's unhealthy either. It can be turned unhealthy, for sure. But let's not just accuse you of being a fucking shallow dipshit just because you have pecs. And some fat people might be upset about that. Right?
Maybe.
Oh, no, they are. They're fucking upset. I know, because when I lost weight, they got very upset at it.
They slide into my DMs equally as, I get the positive and the negative.
Yeah,
which
they
is
want
nice,
So you've heard first world problems. What is the context that's been used?
Typically it's when you're complaining about something that is really not relevant, really with your ability to function that day.
Right. Okay. Good. Thank you. That's what I thought too. Yeah. To me, it's twofold. It's either being used against you to shame you, to make you feel bad, so that someone can feel superior to you.
Right.
Which is very human, I guess, or monkey for sure. Or two, it's something that we've learned and we hyperfixate on because we don't want to be called out for this thing that we're constantly doing.
Right.
And so we're living in a state of constantly trying to be cool, a 20th century invention that means fucking nothing,
right,
and shouldn't mean anything today because none of this is cool. Everyone should get beat up today by the 20th century. That's how this is. We're annoying. This might not be a good thing. I don't know. I'm still rooted in that. But what are first world problems?
First world problems would be, my croissant is not as warm as I
The
ordered it.
croissant's not as ordered.
And there's skim milk in this latte when I asked for coconut.
Keep going. What happened today that bothered you
I had a pretty good day.
this week? List me all your agitations.
Oh man, is my partner nearby? He can tell you all of them. I scream at him with all of my agitations. But no, I don't know. I think probably I have an apartment here in Austin that I don't love because it's very loud near where I live, and where I live in Jacksonville, it's very quiet and suburban. And so I'd probably say a lot of my frustrations lately have been the fact that I'm sleeping on the floor right now because I have no furniture in my new apartment, and it's very loud, so it's hard to sleep. And the garbage man comes at 2 a.m.
There we go.
every single night. Why 2 a.m.?
Why 2
We're
a.m.?
sleeping. This is a residential area. It's
Look at you
so
go.
loud.
Keep going. Keep going.
That's it.
Look, yeah, there's probably so much more, but the way our consciousness works and the way that cycle of I don't want to be called out and I need to be self-aware, we're kind of trapped. That's still just ego.
Oh no, I love to complain. People, if they want to hear me complain, I can definitely do that.
And, of course, I love to complain too. People that say they don't have anything to complain about are clearly cowards.
I agree.
Not trying hard enough. There's plenty to criticize.
Or just open your eyes.
Just don't emotionally invest in it and be a douchebag about it. It's very simple.
You don't,
right?
don't
Hear me out.
dwell on it.
Everything that you're saying could be used against you and called a first world problem. At what point are you consumed? At what point are first world problems becoming a fucking problem? Every day, these agitations. You get to the light, it screws up, or someone cuts you out. Like there's thousands of them happening unconsciously, building up. That to me equal the weight of a third world problem. Like I don't have enough food.
Now we're getting into that area where I don't know, right? Like,
Well, who's happier?
well, I guess it depends. So if you're looking at biologically, let's take it really to the root biology of what stress does to the body, right?
Okay, yeah,
so
yeah.
you're right. When you're starving, there's a lot of chemicals being released. Your body's getting put through it. An average day in the United States for a busy person with 2 jobs that needs to pay their rent here in Austin, and they're super busy. They have family. They have all these other things going on. The amount of stress and cortisol that's getting released in their brain is probably doing something similar to what's happening to someone in we're not supposed to say third world country anymore, developing nation.
You know what? I'm sure the guy starving to death will be so thrilled about how good you were ignoring him.
Yes. So I guess biologically, if you put a ton of first world problems on someone, the stress that it releases could have a very similar impact to starving.
Again, so what's a human being?
I mean, honestly,
Doesn't matter what the stress is.
The way we treat each other, I have no idea what a human being is anymore. I think more when I see interacting with other people treat their dogs and their animals better than they treat their colleagues, their coworkers, their spouses. So I guess maybe really it's beyond.
Yeah, but have you been around dogs?
I'm not a dog person.
Yeah.
I'm a cat person.
A gay man who loves cats?
I know.
In this world?
A gay man that loves...
Here's my fun point. My fun point is that we need to identify these things used in society that we've created against us and be able to acknowledge that it's okay to have a lot of first world problems. And in fact, it is a problem.
Right.
And you're seeing it happen over the course of quarantine. It kind of heightened it when people realized, oh, I don't really do anything that matters for a living. I'm not an essential worker.
Can you believe that phrase? I don't understand that phrase. I actually find it extremely offensive that you would call any person who has a job non-essential.
I would go the opposite and say nobody's essential.
Well, we could look at it both ways, definitely.
I do. I like both ways, but I have to balance it because
Yeah.
to me, you're right and I'm correct.
That's true. We're both right.
It's fun.
But, again, I agree. We could either look at it both ways. Either no one's essential or everyone's essential. But because my title is whatever, or because I work in a hospital or whatever, does not mean that I get special privileges or should be able to keep my job while someone else, is struggling along the way. But again, that's capitalism.
Okay. Well, to go with the capitalism thing, I'll end it with, I guess, because I can tell you. Oh, now I can keep going? All right, fuck it. Huh? All right, all right, just making sure. I tried to get telehealth, didn't work.
Can you say the company you used?
No, I wouldn't do that to them.
Oh, come on.
Because I don't fucking remember. I didn't really pay
I did
attention.
all of them. I've worked probably where you got
I did. I went after telling a friend to go to therapy. I was like, he goes, do you go to therapy? I was like, oh, fuck no. I was like, oh God, I got to do this. Now, my backstory of it is a little different. My third grade therapist tried to fight me.
with or without.
He was a dude. I was in third grade. I was just a child, but he said something stupid or something like that.
Did he use a weapon?
No.
Good.
He just. I mean, we are in
That
Texas.
could be extra traumatic.
Well, my 5th grade psychiatrist, I helped her through her divorce. And all I did was just listen while she complained. Because I learned that if I shut up and listen, people will just talk about their problems.
That's true.
And around that same time, I had to see a specialist because my parents were going through divorce and I was getting mouthy to my teachers because they were really mean. And I was like, I called her a $1.80 whore because she was letting kids beat me up. I was like, you're a piece of shit. How dare you? I'm not doing anything. And then I screwed with the therapist, and I took this book called Murder and Mayhem and started stripping all these serial killer stories as my personal diary because they were doing these childish exercises. So I was like, okay, I'll mess with her. And then they tried to put me in the state of Montana. I was like, I'm just fucking with you. Here's the book. She retires. I have zero respect for this profession by middle school. So I was like, all right, I got to, my mom's in the mental hospital. I hadn't seen her forever, So it's like 16, 13, right in there. 9th grade, 10th grade, right in that area. I go see her with my brother. My brother's a gangster. He's all freaking out and crying because she's talking about aliens impregnating her with Prince Charles and all this crazy shit. And the doctor is, basically telling me how she's improving because the aliens in her psychosis are friendlier. And my response is, well, they better be if they're bringing British royalty to fuck her in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
This is weird and off-putting to doctors. Like, are you working on a horror movie? What the fuck are you doing? So my attitude towards mental health is suspect. Yeah. So I want to come in with an open heart to it. I wanted to do that with this conversation because I have all this bile and rage, and you don't want to project that onto another human being. So I tried to go to the poor people, the communicare here, stuff like that. I got on MAPS, whatever it's called here. It's you're poor. And I have no way to prove it because I lived so poor. I lived in destitute. I lived in poverty. I've been semi-homeless for most of my life, half of it for sure. And I don't talk about it. I don't make it anybody's problem. I'm in stand-up comedy. I'm pretty much a douchebag. I could easily apply myself at a shitty job and not bother anybody, but for some reason I'm compelled to do this. Well, I talk to the nice doctor lady that is volunteering for the poor people, and we're having the conversation. I'm like, well, I found out during quarantine that I was dating a schizophrenic for 10 years and had no idea, which really concerned me because I was constantly obsessing about schizophrenia because of my mother. You'd think I would have seen it.
Wait.
But turns out...
a second. So hold on.
Yeah.
So your mother had schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
You dated a schizophrenic.
Oh, many of them, but this one for 10 years. Like, usually when I caught it, I was like, we should... it's not going to work. You're insane.
Well, was she on treatment?
Oh, no. It was
tough.
crazy. I don't want to throw out her business, Listen,
Right,
you fuck me, your secret's safe with me. I want everyone in the world to know that. I can keep a secret. Sometimes not well, but be careful. Don't push me, because I will say shit. But legit, I was concerned about that because, you're chasing stand-up comedy, so you're constantly in your own head.
Right.
Taking profit from your thoughts to economize it. So I tried to go to the Poor People program, and to get to your thing on capitalism, I went and talked to their main physician before I even had the psychiatry exhibit, and her first question is, what do you do? And I didn't want to say. I didn't want to say stand-up comedian because I don't, the economy of it is gone. It's now a bunch of losers begging for Joe Rogan's attention, which I'm fine with. I would love to beg for his attention and tell him what I think, and then get his response and have a conversation. I'm fine with that. I don't have to agree with everybody. I don't have to disagree either.
That'd be a good podcast.
But these people don't have any fucking thing to stand on. They're just going with anything. So they're not even human beings with points of view. So I'm like, well, this isn't healthy. Yeah. I'm talking to doctors like, I don't want to tell, I nothing. And she goes, how do you make money? It's like, I don't even know. I don't know. I'm so fortunately I saved up $5,000 and I've been able to like stay semi in that area. Yeah. Living in poverty, but like I've been living in this cycle forever. I know this is not healthy. I should probably find a way to get out of this. And I'm questioning my sanity just to make sure, I think that's important if you're on the outside. You don't know what you don't know. That's the biggest thing. Well, she didn't give a shit. So they scheduled me for the therapist. The therapist cancels for a week later. I'm like, all right, you guys don't care. And then when I finally go down there, they send me a letter saying that my card is now expired after 3 months. They do that. They just expire for 3 months and you got to sign up again. I go down there with the letter saying, bring this letter. I call first. they on the phone say, we can't do it over the phone. And then I have to ask them, was like, well, it says here to call you, and I called you for psychiatric treatment.
Yeah.
And now you're saying that I can't get approved over the phone, even though it says to do this. And they're like, yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I'm certainly not questioning my sanity now. So I'm having fun with, like, so they had me, like, people are just shitty toward me. Like, they don't give a fuck. They do not give a fuck. I was like, all right, well, I'll bring this letter. And I'm talking to them very rational. It's like, I understand this sounds crazy. They bumped me up to a supervisor. If I bring this letter, you're telling me I have to show up there in person. You know, this is a pain in the ass. It's across town in traffic. I'll do it. I don't like doing it because traffic sucks.
Yeah.
And it makes me unhinged. I'll go there with the letter. This letter works. It's like, yeah, it'll work. It's from us. You mailed me the letter. Yeah. Right. So if I bring this letter, it should work. Yeah, no big deal. Right. All right. If it sounds weird that I'm asking, it's because this is what my life has been my entire life. It's always going to just go bad. I show up to the thing. I meet a man named Sylvester, and I will name this motherfucker. First question is, what do you do? I was like, I don't have a job. I'm waiting for people to book me.
That's why I'm here.
I tell jokes, and I might be, I'm here to figure out, I'm at the poor people doctor.
Right.
And of course, people are trying to get away with it. And I'm like, are people trying to get away with this? Because so far, no one's helped me. Yeah. I don't know what I'm getting away with.
Right.
I've only gotten blood drawn, and the lady couldn't tell me what my blood type was. I still don't know. I'm an older human being who has no idea. Do you know what your blood type is?
I think I'm...
No one knows for sure. It's in you right now.
I have it on my report somewhere.
No one gives a fuck.
I don't care.
No one cares. But the phlebotomist should be able to tell me. And here, so I'm like, am I getting? And then he just gets mad, and then just is like, well, this letter doesn't matter. I was like, well, it says on the letter, and here's the letter. You sent me the letter. Here I am with the letter. I'm in person. It's like, well, we need a phone bill. I was like, well, you didn't tell me to bring a phone bill, and I brought the letter that you mailed to me. So clearly, I live here. If I got your letter. Can I now see someone to tell me if I'm crazy or not? Send me out. Send me out on the streets. They don't care because the MAPS program in this town is getting a lot of funding and a lot of money, not to help people, but the more people they go through. It's like the education system, As long as the kids are going through, we're getting our pay.
That's like a lot of telehealth companies in general, is the more patients you see, the more you get paid. And so there's no reimbursement for me spending more time with you. There's no reimbursement for you getting better. You get paid to be, okay, on to the next. And then like you mentioned too, they create this system where physicians are paid very low per encounter. And so the physicians are trying to be compensated enough to live so they don't have to get another job. And so they're seeing as many patients as they can. And then patients don't have access to them. Similar to with your provider, you're calling and you get a nurse or you get a staff member, an administrator, whatever. Like all the patients that I see.
A lot of first world problems.
Yeah. All the patients that I see that I'm their direct physician for whatever they're being treated for have my cell phone number. I say, call me anytime. If I'm asleep, I will call you back. And that's kind of what I also enjoy. I like building relationships with patients. That's the whole point of why I became a family medicine physician. But again, I love telehealth, but a lot of the places that I've worked in the past just
It doesn't sound like you love telehealth. It sounds like you have to say you love telehealth to protect you from the telehealth industry would push back against something like, I don't know if that's helping.
So the companies I work for now, I'm very proud to say that I feel as though we do a great job.
Hold up, because all I heard was the people that pay me now.
Right, that's true. But I leave when I don't feel like it's a good fit for me and the patient.
Good. Okay, so here we are. This is for you. This is for you. I want to set you up right.
Okay.
This is your podcast?
Yes.
Whatever this future goes.
Yes.
What do you want from this? Why are you doing with this? And how can you express it? Because people are you're probably your biggest things up against you, besides being gorgeous. No one likes to hear, no, it's not something to be proud of.
I know, you're right. It actually is not. I mean, I could get into that later.
You're going to deal with mental health. You might be the best person for this because you understand the superficiality and the ego and how it has to negotiate those two things because you're dealing with it in real time. You look great. There's nothing wrong with that. You should be able to pursue that. Other people have the problems with that, so they're going to project a bunch of things on you that I'm sure you've already had to parcel through easily enough.
I mean, Go ahead. Sorry.
But what is your goal for doing this? Who are you talking to on here? Is there an audience that we care about? Is there what is it just for your brand?
Honestly, I just feel like, I honestly also have not listened to that many podcasts. So I don't
Perfect.
have
Even
much
better.
of an idea of what I'm even supposed to be doing here. All I want to do is create a place where people can go, unwind, listen to someone who is a physician, has experience in medicine, that knows there's a lot we can fix, there's a lot we can change. I'm a young person, I'm a male. Both of those categories typically do not seek out medical attention when necessary. They definitely don't have a primary care doctor or practice preventative health screenings regularly. So just kind of maybe releasing a shield of what a physician has to be. I take myself very lightly. I post pictures of myself on Speedos on the internet. I mean,
It's
I don't.
fun having a good time.
It is fun having a good time. Me and my partner get to do it together. It's actually been so much fun for us. We really has brought us together as a couple.
Yeah.
It's almost like we have an online journal. Anyways, and some people they relate to that, or they think it's inspiring or whatever, which is incredibly nice to say. But really, I just thought, based on my experience in social media, there's a lot of people who say I'm inspiring or that they are interested in what I have to say. And so giving them what they're asking for by me still just being authentically myself and providing the education that I have from my background and my experience, especially in men's health, and seeing how we can help people along the way. I mean, I just truly hope that if anyone's listening to this, they get to laugh, because that's really what you should be listening to a podcast for. Learn something and have questions. So that's my main goal for this podcast. Make someone laugh, teach them something, and give them questions for maybe next time I have a podcast. They can leave a comment, I can answer them, or they at least have questions to take to their doctor or to their friends. So those are the 3 goals I have for this podcast.
Can I ask a personal question?
Please.
Okay, good. Well, because I don't know if therapy strictly absolves that, because the relationship of therapist to person listening, I think, is going to evolve and change over the course of the technology doing things like this.
Right.
So what I would ask you is, what are you most ashamed of?
I think I'm most ashamed of my relationship with my family.
Okay.
I think that is probably something that I wish was better. I wish that we had more in common. I wish that they saw things the way that I see things. I wish I could see things the way that they see things. And I'm an only child. I have a relatively small family. My grandmother is on her way to being deceased due to cancer. Another one is having mental health struggles, which makes our relationship also very difficult. And so that's probably my biggest shame. But it's something that I'm working
Can I pause
on
you there?
actively. Yeah.
I
But I could have more if you want a different
Well,
one.
I know there's more, because that was the easiest shameful thing.
I
That
could
was
come up with other ones.
I know you can. We're not going to do that because that would be so unfair.
I like it.
Well, okay, we can do that later.
Yes.
Because I want to give it the proper. It's like an exercise I do with comics too.
Gotcha.
Because it takes away what I find in comedy. I do these things. I call them dojos because it's the stupidest name I can think of. I want people to be ashamed to do it.
Yeah.
Because I want to take the piss out of things. Because it's the weight of them that we put on it that ends up crushing us.
Right.
Like Arthur Miller's The Crucible. We're just more weight, and we think it's doing us good. So the questions I ask are always like, why do you feel this way? What's the point of what you're trying to say? Why should people care to hear it? Little things like that. And I always ask people, what are you ashamed of? Like, what's the thing? Not the thing you're about to tell me, the thing you don't want to say. And it cuts to the root of it. And by turning it into a joke or making it funny or talking it out as a group and taking the piss out of it, I find that most people realize, oh, it doesn't control me over. Now that I've worked it out, I've effectively done something creative with it. Now I own the story. It doesn't own me anymore. And I think things like this could be really beneficial. So the reason I asked you that is I think it's vastly important on your side of things as you explore this and interview people and talk to them and try to get more out of them. You start paying attention to what you don't want to say.
Right.
What makes you kind of reverse, because you're very good at the posture.
Thank you.
You're very well spoken about
Thanks.
how to present itself, but you're going to come across very generic too because
Right.
of the professionalism that you're trying to affect on it,
Right.
which I think might be rooted in your youth. because when we're young, we want to seem like we know what the fuck we're doing at all times.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big component too. Imagine how many people I see on camera that are my patient that have no idea what I look like, and I pop up on the screen. I'm like, "Hi, I'm your doctor today." They're like,
"God
"Are you
damn it,
20 years old?
Yeah.
Did you go to school? Do you have a driver's license?"
Yeah.
You know, so that's constantly in the back of my head that I have to present professionally. But then to kind of like jab it, because personally I don't see myself as a professional. I just see myself as me. That's where my Instagram comes in, because I get to post silly things. I get to make fun of myself. I get to make people think I'm a narcissist, which I certainly am to an extent, but I think people probably think I'm a huge narcissist, which is great too. But I get to kind of just poke fun at myself, poke fun of all those things where I couldn't necessarily do it in my day to day.
I think you're trying to balance your exploration of the self and the things that you're interested, like, ooh, what's inside me? What more can I do with this thing?
Exactly.
This is my body that I carry around. With the other side of, how do I interact in a group setting? Who am I in society?
Right.
And I find that there's two worlds that we're living in, where we live as individuals, but we also live as a group, and the group dictates who we are as individuals.
Right.
And I think a lot of mental health might be something is broken between the connection of who you are in one group of friends might be different in another group. You're a loser in this group, but you're the leader of this one. How we're affected. You get into a stadium and there's thousands, and everyone's doing the wave and you're just doing it. You're like, how am I?
Like, wait, I didn't have my standing?
That to me is why the question, what is a human being, is important.
Right.
Because how can we solve any mental health problem if we don't address the fact that individual is different than group, and it's happening all at the same time? And maybe a lot of our mental health is this yo-yoing between groupthink, comment section think, and then who am I as a human being walking this earth, is creating a lot of these problems that unfortunately now there's a capitalistic market trying to profit off of it without the interest of necessarily actually helping. I think for you, I think you're probably in the best possible position to help out a lot of these people who are drifting in the shallows with a lot of deep thoughts, not knowing that all they have to do is stand up.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I think you worded that perfectly, and I'm flattered by that assessment. I
could be very wrong.
No, I mean,
could be a total
this
piece of
could be
shit.
this could be a total disaster. No, yeah, I just hope to, moving forward, inspire, educate, and have fun.
That was the thing. I could tell where your values were, because everything that you're trying to come across, I've seen sketchy people try to do it, but they're pieces of shit. You can't fake this.
You can't.
You can't fake this. You can fake it to other people who are insecure.
Right.
All the comics working. Even the headliners are in it. They need it so bad. They're fucking pussies. I'm only saying it because they would hate hearing that. That's the only way I say it. I don't gentrify it that way with the fucking. But well, good luck.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure having you. Yeah, this has definitely been, I think, the best way to start the podcast. You've opened a lot of my thoughts here, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully you come back.
Listen,
I think we'll have a lot to talk about.
I'm going to be in a lot more, like what I was doing. This is the first podcast.
Just don't cut your hair. I really like it.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth.
No, don't you
went
dare.
Gray at 19. Huh? I went gray at 19 before people were fucking people with silver hair.
This is a thing now.
So I died. Well,
I'm waiting. I actually am excited for the day that I get a little more salt and pepper, but I'll probably cut it. But I feel like now you've a little inspired me, because it does look good.
Well, you just, you take care of your shit. You don't oversee it on pride, a little dime thing, you let it. Sorry, I can go into.
No, I agree.
These are my feminities.
It's great. I think you should embrace. You embrace them. You have to. We all should. That's healthy. Anyways.
Yeah, I believe in balance. God, what was I going to tell you before we were leaving?
You're coming back.
Oh, yeah. This is one of the few podcasts I've actually done as myself.
I like that.
There's a few of them where I'm developing a therapy character to make fun of people doing this. I apologize. Not you. You're not into this camp.
If
the
I
hucksters.
was, I'd be okay.
Well, I'm making fun of Alan Watts. And I find a lot of narcissists love Alan Watts. And I can find great value in Alan Watts when it comes to individual living and what is the purpose, if you're doing some stupid business, back off, be a human being. What are you doing? You know, very much value into that. But for some reason, the people who really love Alan Watts are the people who want to get away with everything for themselves. So my character's thing is, Alan Twats. And it's just this, but... with no education, zero education, openly, so people know you shouldn't take these things that seriously.
Right.
It should be a casual conversation. You should be accredited and be going, here's the information. You're still going to do with it what you're going to do with it.
Right.
But I'm living my life too. I'm not this cold doctor figure that's supposed to be this daddy that you can give yourself to. Human beings need to learn to manage that and stop creating these weird hierarchies. We just love having leaders so much.
I agree. That's why I tell every patient, this is a partnership. We're working together. I can't fix everything for you. I need you to be 50-50 in this. And so usually they're not, but sometimes they are.
I'll do this anytime you want.
Good.
I'm probably going to be
back.
doing a lot more things like this. I'll be a little bit better about being structured. I just threw in the kitchen sink for your producer.
This is great.
I've known of him for a few years now. It took me a while to remember, but I looked you up on the picture. I saw the bald head. I was like, I know that guy. That guy's fucking badass.
We did it. I think this was great. I didn't think we needed to have a strict, and I hope, really none of our podcast episodes, I hope, have a really strict point of view, because the beauty is getting two people together and seeing where we go. So
Well, they should, because
I have to have a point of view, but maybe I just don't want it to be relaxed.
I'll ask you this, and if this will be the last thing I ask.
Okay.
Promise.
Okay.
Very lonely. Think about it this way, and tell me if this helps. I've been trying this out for myself, and it's something that I don't think I discovered it, but it's just something that kind of dawned on me. I was like, oh, I could explain this, because I've been like, when you're dating girls with kids now, it's a whole different world. And since I had to raise myself much in the same way, when you started talking about that, I was like, oh, I should probably go, no, I won't do that to him. Raising yourself puts you in that different kind of position in society with people. You're constantly feeling like an outsider. And then, unfortunately, when society becomes as obsessed with media and storytelling like it has, and there's a hyper awareness, so people are just cutting corners and just get me to the thing, we miss a lot of the nuance that makes us who we actually are. And I'll ask you this question. What is the most crucial ingredient necessary for speed?
Drive? I don't know.
Great answer. All the comics have been saying the drug one, or I was like, fuck. All right, no, drive is a good one. Like whatever that is.
Like energy, right? Like
energy,
energy or drive you want to put into something will ultimately.
Yeah, that's what I used to think too. Like energy is the most important thing, and the older you get, the less you have of it. So it's important to understand that and know where to put your energies. That's managing your time, managing your life. Mental health should be more about management on this kind of level before we get into the deeper ends that some people necessarily have to have that this won't be able to help.
Yeah.
I think the answer to the most crucial ingredient to speed necessary for it is direction.
Yeah.
Destination. There's a lot of people can go really fast, run around circles, going fucking nowhere.
Right.
If you don't have a place to go towards, what's all that energy? What's all that flash? What's all that speed?
Right.
It's nothing. So
have direction. Have destination.
You should. It's too easy to tell people like you that can live in Jacksonville and Austin, Texas, and create a celebrity and a sense of fame and importance.
I'm super important.
Which is you don't have a choice on it, because people you don't have a choice on it, because people are going to make you important, because they're going to that's what human beings do. So it becomes even important for you to recognize that, so you can stop and go, oh, you're still yourself.
Right.
So you can balance between that transition shit. And everyone doing podcasts right now told, just start recording, then put them all out. It's this. They did it. You got to do it too. And you're like, all right. It costs, and we're going to build a studio so they can all come here and do it. And no, podcasts are really important, because we have the podcast studio and we're recording all of them and getting paid for it. By the way, they're not getting paid for it. We get our money first. But eventually, if they get enough fans, then they can start their own patrons. Who gives a shit, as long as we're still making our money off of it. And so how are you not the fucking sucker?
If
you're being told,
no, you're right,
just post it and have no direction, all of them.
Right. As long as I'm having fun, and as long as I'm still feeling creative, and this is kind of like the way that I do get to express my creativity, I think I'm fine. I don't even really need
Yeah, you do.
I mean, I do, but I mean, I do have a job though. Here's the thing: I have a job. I have my own stuff. I make my own money without any of this, and
Yeah,
so
it's called credibility.
Yeah,
to
it's
sell
true.
When
Yeah.
selling the
But
thing that's going to make you more money
even
than the
for
job
this-
you're escaping from.
even for this right now, though, I just enjoy it, and I mean, I hope it becomes a means of financial freedom, but I just, as long as it's fun and I get to meet new people. I know, but
That's not
but I really,
real.
I really do.
This isn't fun.
You don't think?
No, this is self-aggrandizing.
Yeah.
This is self-important. It's fun to
Maybe.
have all the lights and cameras on me and the microphone, and also I don't have to prepare. I could just babble.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is some preparation involved. You have a lot of experience in what brings you who you are, right? That's why you're the guest here. Is you didn't have to prepare too much because you are prepreparation. You've prepared for as many years as you've been alive.
I purposely didn't because
Me too.
I purposely didn't because and I mean this is a production conversation style conversation, but I purposely didn't because you should also have the opportunity since he told me you're exploring this and he goes, you know, he's new at this because from this areas, but he's super knowledgeable in this areas and he's got to deal with this because of Assange issues and these things in background. And I assessed it as, he doesn't have a direction yet. And no one's asked him to pick a destination and actually start focusing on that. And to me that's the difference between people who succeed at this and don't succeed.
Right.
People selling you that all you have to do is just do it. Well, there's very much importance to that energy. Yeah. It's very much a hustle culture, but unfortunately, everyone telling you to do that seems to be profiting off of it. And I'm the person not profiting off of it, telling you, you know, if we do this again, I would love to. I would actually love to sit down because there's some parallels here from different point of views that I would love to explore and learn from.
Yeah.
And I say we would sit down first one day, all three of us, like just have a coffee, chart out a couple of things and go, we're going to stay on this topic.
Let's do it.
This one's exploratory, but that one, we do it that way. And we go in super boom, 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 keep it casual that we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
And then gauge the difference between this podcast and that one.
Right.
And then you can make a better decision for yourself what your destination is personally.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think, too, the listeners, if this is a podcast that we end up using, which I hope it is, we'll see the growth. You know, they'll see the first episodes, I'm a little crazy, a little misdirected, and then we get better and better, and that's the journey.
Yeah. You got it.
We got this. Thank you for your inspiration. I know, right? You don't like compliments. I can see that.
No.
Yeah.
I learned to say thank you, but I don't dwell on compliments because, unfortunately, working in stand-up comedy, the ego is dangerous.
True.
It's killing people.
Yeah.
It really is. The psychosis that is being created in real time, working for people that not only do not have their best interests, are just flipping.
Right. I think it's more important to ensure you're loving yourself, not obsessed with yourself, or not. You know, again, I think it involves just learning to love yourself and preventing that from taking you to a dangerous direction, I guess, loving your ego, so to speak.
I'll tell you, what got me out of being mostly homeless was 3 rules. The first rule was don't bullshit yourself. But you have to know you're going to do it anyways.
Right.
Because the mind always bullshitting. You're always lying to yourself. You're always trying to get away with something and trying to get out of something. So see it in real time. So you go, is that real? No, I just lied to myself. Okay, got it. And then know that you're going to find new ways to do it. It's constant developing. It makes you sharper. Do that. Second rule is you can't take yourself too seriously. But you have to take yourself somewhat seriously.
Yeah.
How do you live your life if you don't take anything serious?
That's true.
So, but just don't take it too serious because you're full of shit. You're bullshitting yourself. And the third rule was you have to allow yourself to suck. You're going to fail.
Yes.
It's going to work out, but you can't constantly allow yourself to suck because then you're bullshitting yourself.
Yeah.
All 3 work together to let me live in a closet instead of the streets.
Hey, moving on up.
Whatever value there is to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. See you next time.
God is dead.
I agree.